Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity in Naperville Online. My name is Kathy Foulser. I'll be the service leader today. I'm so glad you're with us. I wish that we could be together in person, but I know we can't right now. I want us to be safe, and I'm glad we are together in spirit. Yes. And you know, if you have been around Unity at all, that we are all about being peaceful, being present, being accepting, and living with the inner experience of the divine in every moment. So thank you for joining us. Our minister is the one and only Reverend Kitty Benson. You'll be hearing from her in a moment. The one and only. We have a fabulous band, Highest Good. We have Kim-Char and Kevin on guitar and vocals. We have Mark on keyboards. We have Mark on drums. So thank you for being with us. I always have to give a shout out to our amazing tech team that makes this service happen. We've got Parker and Cindy. Thank you so much. And as you know, again, if you've been around Unity in Naperville at all, we love to start our service uplifting our hearts with glorious music. So I'm going to turn it over to Highest Good.
On the screen. I see no separation when you are my meditation. All times may I rest in this truth. You are always in me. I am always in you. Let's sing that one more time. I see no separation when you are my meditation. All times may I rest in this truth. You are always in me. I am always in you. Oh. Nothing separates me from the love of God. Nothing separates me. Oh. Separation when you are my meditation. All times may I rest in this truth. You are always in me. I am always in you. Oh yeah. Nothing separates me from the love of God. Nothing separates me. Oh. Separates me from the love of God. Nothing separates me. Oh, nothing separates me from the love of God. It's true. You are always in me. I am always in you. They were screaming here, but I imagine you're screaming there too. Woo, woo! We're so glad you're joining us. And nothing separates us from that divine flowing in us and through us and as us. And we are one in that spirit. Nothing separates us. How's that?
That's right, yes.
Do that again, Kevin. Here we go. walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand. And cause the world to know the love of God is in our land. And we'll know we are family by our love, by our love. And we'll know we are family by our love, by our love. We will work with each other. We will work side by side. We will work with each other. We will work each man's pride. We will guard each one's dignity and lift each one's pride. And we'll know we are family by our love, by our love. And we'll know we are family by our love. And we'll know we are family by our love. And we'll know we are family by our love.
I think they missed playing. I especially was enjoying Mark Rio back there in the corner on those drums, man. Yeah.
Mark Rio.
It's hard not to just get up and dance, at least, if we can't sing. So welcome, everyone. I'm Kitty Benson. I'm the minister here at Unity. And I would love to just spend a moment in prayer with you as we begin our service. Let's take a moment to just close our eyes. Take a breath. Find that connection to the loving Spirit of God in our hearts. And in this quiet moment, we feel our oneness in spirit. That no matter where we are connected. One with God, one with life, one with the harmonizing power of love, one with divine wisdom, and one with each other. We know that we are family by our love. This is the truth of our being, and now we allow it to be. Amen. Will you help me speak our invocation? The words are up here on the screen. Together. There's only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, the all-loving goodness of God. Band, you get to go again.
Band. Send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love send my love over send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my joy over the mountains. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my peace over the mountains. I send my peace over the sea. I send my peace into the heavens, and it returns to me. I send my love over the mountains. I send my love over the sea. I send my love into the heavens, and it returns to me. And it returns to me, and it returns to me.
Thanks, everybody. Have you learned that by heart yet? Muddy water, let stand, becomes clear. I was having such a good time this week because I've been spending time online in little Zoom meetings with 4 to 6 people. Just catching up, seeing how everybody's doing, and somebody actually spoke those words to me and said that they were applying them to their life this week, and it actually stuck with them when they were facing something difficult. So I was excited to hear that. And I've been promising that we would get to the point where we are learning how to let that muddy water stand. Remember that we talked about that water being our consciousness. It's how we experience life. It's kind of the vehicle that we drive around in and decide whether that's good or bad, or whether it's uplifting me or whether it's taking me down. And obviously, the more often that we decide that what's happening on the outside of us is heavy and slow, the muddier our consciousness becomes and the harder it becomes to get clear on what Spirit is trying to do and be through us. And I think that's what Jesus was trying to say. I use the scripture a lot because I think it actually describes not only how our consciousness works, but the fact that we have a choice in it. So this is from Matthew chapter 6. Jesus said that the eye is the lamp of the body. So if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. So think of that eye as our perception, as our consciousness, as our water, and that if it's clear, if it's bright, then our experience of life is clear and bright. And that's how we were designed to function. You and I were designed as extensions of the divine, the omnipresence of God. And that as that presence in this physical human experience that we're having, if we can remember to stay clear, to keep the eye of our body clear, then we can have that kind of an experience where we're tapping into not just consciously what's happening, but through the Christ consciousness, or you might call it the superconscious level of thinking. That's the way I think we were designed, is to be in such a state of mind that the thoughts of God become our thoughts. Wouldn't that be awesome? That the thoughts of God become our thoughts, and that's how we're designed to be. But we've got to get that water cleared up first. And there's an old saying, I think my dad was good at saying this. You know, when I was a teenager and I was crying the blues, because, you know, as a teenager, we have a lot of blues, right? And my dad would just go, oh, kitty, into every life a little mud must fall. It's actually, into every life a little rain must fall, yeah. But I thought for today we'd insert the word mud. And as a teenager, I had a lot of reasons for mud filling up my consciousness. But you and I probably interact with things every day that can feel muddy to us. It's everything from losing our job or income. It can be getting sick, going to the hospital. It can be arguing with your family or a conflict with somebody online. You know, it's really easy to do that these days, to have differing opinions. It can be just fearing for your future, not sure how to make a decision, not sure which way to go. It can be everything from, what's going on with COVID right now, where it feels like our freedom has been robbed, to what's going on in, from our past that we're carrying with us. We're constantly trying to rewrite the past when that cannot be done, and that's only going to continue to muddy the water. So as those circumstances happen within us, the first thing we want to do is blame them or run from them. But the truth is, they have nothing to do with muddying our water. Job loss and sickness and conflict have nothing to do with muddying our consciousness. The power that muddies our consciousness, and I wouldn't call it a power even, I would say the error thinking that muddies our consciousness, is how we view sickness and loss and lack and conflict. Because we actually have a choice. We can look through it with a bright, clear eye, or we can look through it through an eye of darkness. And so today we're going to talk about how we can change that muddy water, which really, you know what I got to say, I really believe that anytime we feel like our consciousness is muddy, it comes down to one thing, and this actually might simplify a lot for you. And again, my opinion here, but I'm the minister, so I get to have opinions. My opinion is that all of our muddy water comes down to one belief. I am lacking. Either I am lacking in myself, or I am lacking in resources, or I am lacking in love, but in some way or another, we've convinced ourselves, I am lacking. And that continued thought just keeps muddying up the water. So we're going to look today at how to let that muddy water stand so that we can become clear. Are you ready for that? You know, one of the things we know we can't do when we truly have a glass of water that's swirling with mud, there is no way that we're going to get inside that glass and grab every granule of mud and bring it down to the bottom of the glass. Because just the activity, just the focus on it, stirs it up and keeps it stirring up. It's like a magnet. It's just keeping the trouble present in our consciousness. So we can't force it. We have to learn how to let it stand. And just a simple way to think of that is walk away. Just turn away. Just refocus your attention. Just let it go. Something that we use as a term in Unity for this is to pivot. To pivot your consciousness. You're looking at the mud, it's time to turn. Just feel your whole body right now. Just feel it all turning over in this direction. And focus on something else. And what might we be focused on? I think you're going to guess here. I think Jesus tried to mention it in the Lord's Prayer, to let it be on earth as it is in heaven. That is the golden key that Emmett Fox writes about. that to get our mud to settle, we turn away from the mud and we look at the sunshine. We look at the light of God within us. So there are many practices that we can use that I will talk about, but it's going to take longer than just today. So come back next week. We'll have even more practices for you. But today, we're going to get into the meat of this. I don't know all of you that are watching this morning or whenever you're choosing to watch this, but I do know the folks who typically show up here on Sundays, and I know that you can handle this. And so I'm going to just bring on the meat first. Sorry for all you vegetarians for that metaphor. What's another word I could use besides making this meaty? The good stuff. What do you say? Substance, yeah, okay. So here it comes. Up here on the screen, we're going to look at 4 different things. Be still, know God, no small thing right there. Be present, and know thyself. These truly could take a lifetime if you just focused on these 4 things. But the good news is that you're already infinitely ahead of where you think you are, because there is the core of your being that is already living its truth. We just have to make way for it to shine through. We just have to get things out of its way. And one of the ways that we do that is to be still. And many of us really fight against this. I think that's why Blaise Pascal, who was a philosopher among many other things and quite a while ago, wrote that all man's miseries derive from not being able to sit quietly in a room alone. All man's miseries, all, that's a big word, all man's miseries are because we cannot sit quietly in a room alone. So let's flip that and think what it would be like if we said all our joys come from being able to sit quietly in a room alone. Now that's enticing, right? To know that all of your happiness, your clarity, your strength comes from being able to sit quietly in a room alone. Obviously not 24/7, but daily would be helpful. And this whole aspect of being still is, it's about letting the waters start to clear, and when we do that, the universe unfolds before us. We have access to the divine mind like never before. Meditation is one of the greatest secrets, and yet everybody's heard of it, and yet not many people are using it, right? So Jesus was trying to get us to seek first the kingdom and solve all of our other problems that way, to seek first the kingdom, to turn within, to be mindful of that presence of spirit. And it's not like you even need to understand it at first. You don't need to know all the ins and outs of the mind of God. You just need to be willing to turn within and give your attention there and find your way into the silence. Ernest Holmes, who wrote or founded Science of Mind, Centers for Spiritual Living, he said that the quickest and most effective method to get rid of fear is to get quiet and lift up the whole thought in confidence and faith to something with a capital S bigger than we are. It's like going from a cold, dark room into the sunshine and just sitting there, letting the rays of the sun penetrate the whole being with warmth and color until the darkness and dampness are gone. So it is with the life of meditation and of communion with that divine spirit, which is closer to us than our very breath. There's a whole bunch of different techniques that you can use to meditate. And we meditate here during every service to give you a flavor of what that's like. We'll do it again today. We'll do it again next week. I'll try and mix it up a little bit as we go so you get some different styles. But today when we talk about being still, I just want you to keep in mind 3 things that we're doing here. We're clearing the slate. That means slowing down our thoughts. We're refocusing our attention to give our thoughts something to look at instead of to get busy and meditate on the past or fear for the future. And we let go. We let go of trying to make it become something, especially when we're new at meditation. And I would just recommend that you start clearing the slate for a minute or 2 at a time, especially if you're one of those go, go, go people where it's hard for you to sit still. You don't have to do this for an hour. Just sit down and do it for a minute or 2. You know, if you're a little bit more willing to sit still, then try 5 minutes to begin with. And I would say a good average for people, but you get to figure this out for yourself, is probably 20 minutes a day. And if you're really into it, do it 20 minutes twice a day. But the idea here of clearing the slate is when you close your eyes and you bring your attention inward, your brain is going to keep working. That's just the way it was designed. So we have to train it to release some of those thoughts, to wipe off the chalkboard a little bit. You know, sometimes I like to think of my thoughts as leaves floating on a stream. And when I first catch myself thinking, I just notice that thought like a leaf. I put it in the stream and I watch it float away. Use some kind of visual image in your mind to attach to your thoughts so that you don't beat yourself up for having thoughts and you don't shame the thoughts. You just notice them and let them go on, and then you come back to your focus. And the focus of our attention is really going to be up to you, but I'm going to offer today one way of doing that is to choose a divine word, something that has meaning to you, especially if that word or that phrase will help to heal whatever it is that you're struggling with in your life. So if you're just feeling overwhelmed, then it might be peace, be still. If you're feeling sick in the body, it might be I am strong. If you're short on your resources, you might just say I'm in the flow of good. And let that divine phrase or word keep bringing you back to center. And little by little, as you keep repeating that thought in your mind, you'll find pauses in between, and suddenly the phrases will just either go on subliminally in the back of your mind, or they'll just disappear altogether until you start living in the pause between the words. You can do that with your breath. You don't even need words. You can focus on your breath, and you'll notice that as you breathe in and out, there's a pause before you breathe in and out again. Try to live in the pause. Focus your attention on the pause where there's nothing. But you're alert, you're awake, you're watching. But you're not thinking, you're just waiting. And in that pause is where we start to sink into the divine language of God, that silence. You also want to approach this from a place of letting go, which means you don't beat yourself up because you're not doing it right. You don't beat yourself up because you have too many thoughts during your meditation or you could never reach that pause. You just notice it and let it go. You come in with the attitude of there's no wrong way to do this. There's nothing I can do during this meditation that's wrong or bad. I'm just here. I'm just looking for the space between my thoughts. And something that Wayne Dyer said about those spaces that we're looking for, he said, what awaits you in the gap, that's what he calls it, is the experience of activating the higher dimensions of insight, intuition, creativity, and peak performance, as well as coming to know relaxation, enchantment, bliss, and the peace of making conscious contact with God. That's pretty spectacular. Being still helps us to let that muddy water stand, turning away from the thoughts and toward the pause. And what we look at expands. Be still. There's actually a scripture in the Old Testament, be still and know that I am God. So this is our second idea today, to know God. And obviously we're talking about that which is infinite. And so I'm not going to be able to wrap that up for you in a 20-minute message today about how to know God. But there are different qualities of the divine that we believe apply. And today I'm just going to give you three. I'm talking about the omnis, O-M-N-I. Three omnis. And anybody here know what one of the omnis is? Omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. There you go. So these are all words that I think everybody who has a spiritual path can relate to when they're thinking of the one presence, the one power, the one source, the one mind. And that's what it is. Omnipotence is the one power. Let's think about the omnipresence, which means it's one presence and it's everywhere. There's nowhere we can go where we are outside of God. Right now, your body is inside the presence, the substance, the spiritual energy of God. Right now, this universe dwells in the presence, the substance, the energy of God. Everything that you could possibly need to survive on planet Earth is the omnipresence of God first, and then it becomes things. So when we want to know God, when we want to get our muddy water clear, we want to turn our thoughts to the presence of God. If you're struggling financially right now, if you can't find the resources that you need right now, go to knowing God as omnipresence. And remember that that presence is infinite. It never runs out. It never stops giving of itself. It doesn't require asking. It simply requires acknowledging and accepting and allowing from us. So our omnipresence is something that we can trust and relax in, knowing that all of our needs are provided. And that in that presence, it brings a state of peace. Don't you feel better knowing that there's nothing you could possibly need that isn't already provided in the omnipresence of God? Allow that peace to just sink into you. Know God also through omnipotence, the one power. There's not two powers in the universe. Quick little tutorial from Unity's beliefs is that we don't believe in a power called evil. We believe, I always use it this way. I say that evil is like an adjective or an adverb. It describes our way of thinking, our way of behaving. But it's not a thing or power unto itself that fights against God. I think quantum physics would tell us there's one power in the universe. There's one field of energy. That if there were more than two powers or more than one power, they would be basically exploding the universe. It couldn't stand. And Jesus talked about that. That a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. So think of this not only omnipresence, but one power working in our lives as the power that is animating all the energy of this universe. It never runs out, and its nature is good. Its nature is love. That omnipotence of God is constantly seeking to harmonize everything, to work together, so that we all have our needs met, so that we can all express the fullness of our divine potential. And so this is our opportunity when we're facing conflict in our life to realize that the power of God as love is present in this, and I will look at that. I will remember that. I will allow that. I will be that. Because remember, that power is within you. And it is simply waiting for you to open your heart and let it through. Trust that there is enough good in the power of God that no matter what someone else seems to be saying or threatening, they can't take your good from you. So this is a chance for you to just step back, let them be who they are, and be yourself in that knowing that God is the one power, and there is nothing and no one that can take my good from me. There is nothing that can stand between me and my good. God is omnipotence, and so am I, because God is expressing as me. And then the third one is omniscience, which is one mind, one intelligence. This is the mind that everything was birthed out of. I imagine this absolute mind of God held divine ideas of what a universe would look like. And with the Big Bang, those thoughts gathered energy and started to become what we might call things in this spiritual or physical dimension that we now live in. But that omniscience is continually offering guidance to it to allow it to evolve and expand. The very nature of the divine mind is to create, to continue to experience itself in wonderful new ways. And that same mind that holds this universe within it dwells within us. God thoughts can be our thoughts if we will simply be still and know God as the thoughts in my mind. Another moment for your head to be exploding. So let me share what Myrtle Fillmore, who was one of our co-founders of Unity, wrote. You would not think of closing your eyes and walking around saying that you can't see and you don't know where you're going. So why close your eye of omniscience by saying, I don't know what to do. Repeatedly affirm that you do know. That is the way to make your wisdom work for you and guide you in paths of plenty. I do know what to do. You know what I find myself saying a lot? You know, when I start to, I got a lot going on in here. Let me just start with that. There's a lot going on in here. And I, head off physically walking somewhere in my house to do something. And as I'm going to do that thing, something else comes to mind. Is that anybody? Anybody? Okay, yeah. And I start imagining how I'm going to handle that and what I would do with that. And that leads me to another thought. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. All right. Okay. Then I arrive at the place where I don't know where I'm going, and I have, been so busy thinking about other things that I need to retrack, come back to my original thought. And so I just stand there and say, I can do this. I literally say that, I can do this. And then I just wait. And the divine mind comes back and reminds me where I'm going. Be still, know God. Here's another one, be present. Be present. This is where we start working on ourself. Be present in yourself. And I'm talking about checking in with, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? What am I believing right now? What kind of meaning is behind my feelings? This is an opportunity for us when we're facing some kind of lack in our life to get really clear on what's behind this lack. And remember, it's usually not the circumstance itself. It's usually the way that we're approaching this circumstance. So what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What am I believing? Or what meaning am I giving it? Most of the time we want to attack our lack by dealing with it at a surface level. And I think we've all learned that that means we're approaching it from the same level of consciousness that created it in the first place. Sounds like Einstein, right? You can't. You can't solve a problem at the level of consciousness that created it. So this is about getting to the core. If we don't get to the core of what's behind everything that's going on inside of ourselves, then it will just continue to resurface. That mud will just continue to churn and show itself again and again. So we have to learn how to be still. I know how many of us fear that silence, because when you get quiet and try to tap into what's going on in you, you can actually hear your thoughts, and many of us are afraid of our own thoughts. Can you relate to that? That's when, again, the ego will start to say, here's where you're lacking, kitty. Who wants to hear that, right? Well, we don't just have to suffer the ego. But if we avoid getting into the core of us, then, most of us avoid it just by, we keep moving. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep shopping, just keep entertaining yourself, just keep talking to others, just keep going online, just keep avoiding looking at this thing. Well, another scripture Jesus shared from the book of Luke, for nothing is hidden that will not be disclosed, nor is anything secret that will not become known and come to light. It's going to come up sooner or later. That's why we keep rethinking the same thoughts. 90% of our day we're doing things that the subconscious is trying to drive us to do. So be present. What am I thinking? Bring those thoughts up to look at. Bring those error thoughts up to the light and look at them consciously. And remember that, Jesus said, you've been given the keys to the kingdom of heaven. You get to bind on earth what you want to bind and loose on earth what you want to loose, and then heaven can step in and do its thing with it. So this is an opportunity to say, I no longer need these thoughts. I let these go. I realize as you start to notice the thought, let's say you got a friend on Facebook who you discovered is a different side of the political spectrum than you are. And immediately you want to judge that, and immediately you want to unfriend them. Anybody had that experience? I know none of you probably, but this is an opportunity for us to, first of all, notice maybe, wow, surprise, judgment, shock, anger, frustration, disgust, you name it. Those feelings, when they come up for you, are to be looked at. To know thyself, look at those feelings and say, okay, so what's the belief behind those feelings? Well, if my friend thinks differently than I do about these political issues, and I let them think that they're right, then they could create something in my life that I don't want. They could do something in my life that could take my good from me. They could support people in my life that I don't want to be supported. They could cause laws to be written that could withhold my good from me. Now, did you hear any truth in there at all? See, that's the deal. You have to go back to be still and know God so that you can know what the difference is between truth and error. And when you really look at your feelings, you can start asking what's behind those feelings. And the feelings is, I believe I'm lacking, that my good can be taken from me. So this is our chance to check it out, hear what's behind it, and then let it go. Trust me, you do not have to believe everything that your head thinks, especially when it's about yourself. So as those thoughts start to come up, just because they're there and you become aware of them doesn't mean you have to own them. This is your chance to know what's going on inside of yourself and release and let go. So this is where we start to be present to what's happening in ourself and say no to that which is not serving us. Paul was writing to the Corinthians up here in 2 Corinthians chapter 10. He said, we destroy arguments and every proud obstacle raised up against the knowledge of God, and we take every thought captive to obey the Christ, that divine mind within us. We compare every thought to what the divine mind thinks about this situation. And if it doesn't measure up, it doesn't get to have power in our life. Be present to what's going on so you can address it. And then finally, know thyself. Know who and what you are, what you stand for, why you're existing, where you're headed. Because otherwise, when the least little thing comes up that does not feel good in the moment, you can get so churned up about that you're just banging into walls, that you get totally taken off track, if you have a track. And this is about knowing, do I have a track? So first of all, you ask yourself, what am I? What am I? And most of us would say, I'm only human. I'm a loser. Nobody loves me. Guess I'll go out and eat worms. There's a song, right? Somebody, would you find that song for next week? Probably not. Hates me, guess I'll go out and eat worms. Yeah, okay. So that's one option when you're trying to know yourself. Or, I better come up with an opposite here. Or, no, I am spirit. Therefore, I am eternal. I am an expression of the omnipresence, and so all that God is, wholeness and completion and love and wisdom, I am. Know the very nature of your being, that you are the spring of life and you're flowing with divine potential. You can be all things through that Christ presence within you. Know yourself. What's your purpose? Why are you here? You know, some of us are just like, just to get by. I actually watched a video one time where they were interviewing people on the street. What's your purpose in life? And he said, just get through the day, not kill anybody. I know. Yeah, so obviously that's one choice, or we can have a purpose about expressing our spiritual nature. That the reason I'm having this human experience is so that I can learn to reveal my spiritual nature, to express those divine qualities. We talk in Unity about 12 spiritual powers, but probably the most needed in our world right now is love and wisdom. Love and wisdom. And creativity. Yeah, all those qualities of God dwell within us. That could be what you choose as your purpose, is to reveal those qualities, so that we start to raise this world into a higher level of consciousness. And we also want to check in with our motives. You know, when you start finding fearful or irritating things going on in your life, you might just want to check in and say, why do I need it to be different? What's my motive here? Is it so that I can get control over everybody else and make sure that they're behaving like I am, that they're thinking like me, that they're serving me, that my needs are coming first? What is my motive for getting out of bed in the morning? How about a motive that says, I want to reveal my Christ nature today? That everything that I do today lifts someone else up. that I am here to serve, that I am here to be a presence of love for those who are not feeling it. Who or what am I? What's my purpose for being? What's my motive? I mean, a lot of times, if we really stop to look at how we've been living, may not be our conscious motive, but if we're a complainer, maybe that's, our subconscious has decided that's my motive, is just to complain about everything, not to really make any changes. But I think of Jesus standing there by the pool, the healing pool, where a guy was laying there for 30-some years, couldn't get into the pool. No one would help him get into the healing pool. Everybody got in before him. And he finally just had to ask him, do you want to be made whole? There's a thought. You might want to just check in with yourself. Do you want to be made whole, or do you just want to keep on complaining? Do you want to be right about everything, even though it makes you unhappy, or would you rather just be happy and let everybody live their lives? Know yourself. Know how you've been behaving and what's been driving your thoughts, what's stored in the subconscious that needs to be released, and know who you can be. Know that you are the presence of light, and that it just requires our permission, our attention, in order to elevate our desires. Up here on the screen, here's some options that we have for elevating our desires. We could imagine that in every circumstance, I am at peace. My motive today is to be at peace no matter what goes on around me. Or what about, no matter what I hear somebody saying, it will not disturb my joy? That might be a little bit of a challenge for you. Other people's behavior will only increase my desire to love them. That's one to strive for. How about knowing that no matter what the stock market says or your bank account says, whether you have a job or not, to just get up every morning knowing that there's always more than enough. Got to go back and know God as omnipresence, as omnipotence, as omniscience. We're talking about being still, which allows us to calm the thoughts, move into the space between the thoughts, and realize that it's in that pause that we're able to hear the voice of God. Be still, know God as the one presence and the one power and the one mind that you will never live outside of. That whatever your need might be, knowing God is your answer. It is your supply. Be still, know God, be present, be present. Stop letting your subconscious thoughts drive you. Be present to what's going on inside of you. And then know thyself. Know what your potential is. Let me just finish with what Myrtle Fillmore talked about in regards to our potential. You know what? I think this is a good one for us to read out loud together. On the screen. Ready? God is in us as the very life and substance that we use. God is life. We make that life into living. God is love. We make divine love into loving. God is substance. We take the substantial reality and bring it through into the manifest world. God is wisdom. We claim oneness with divine wisdom, and it expresses through us as wise thoughts, decisions, and actions. God in me is the power, omnipresent, ever active, all sufficient, and ready to meet my every need. You know that, and muddy water will become clear. You know that truth, and you will be set free. Let's take some time in the quiet, being still. And let me just share one more thing from Myrtle Fillmore. A book from Neil Volley wrote about her life called Myrtle Fillmore, Lighting the Way. And Volley is spelled V-A-H-L-E. It's a good biography of her. Here's a couple things that she talks about regarding meditation. When we are in the silence, we become open and receptive to the inflow of the Holy Spirit, which fills every part of us and makes us new and strong and whole. As you still all the outer thoughts and meditate on the indwelling Christ, you will be spiritually quickened, uplifted, and strengthened. You will be inspired with new and rich ideas and will demonstrate good things for you. The entire universe waits for you in the silence. So today what we'll do is we will choose a phrase to repeat. And every time we notice that thoughts are coming back in to get us churned up again, we just repeat that phrase again. So I will say it for you, but if you need to say it 100 times this morning, you do that as you need to do it. Let's take a deep breath. Let's allow our body to support this process by feeling relaxation flowing through us. A soothing, calming blanket covering and relaxing every part of our being that it touches. Just feel that for a moment. And as my body relaxes, my mind begins to slow. With every breath, I let go of the thoughts. The busyness of my mind drifts away on a stream, like the fall leaves. Only God is here. Only God is here. Only God is here. God. Only God. In this presence, I find my peace, my life, my strength, and my joy. Only God is present here and is the very love of my heart, the wisdom of my mind, the creativity that flows.